Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. 5 nabbed in illegal drug trafficking trade in St. Andrew and St. James. St. Anne police hunting for clues in triple murder. And later in sports, clean sweep still on for Jamaicans in women's 200 meter. I'm Anthony Lugg. Here are the details. Up first this afternoon, 5 men are now in custody and another person is being sought following a major joint operation between local law enforcement and the United States Marshal Service this morning. The operations were conducted simultaneously in Kingston and St. James. Kelisha Williams has that story.
It looks like an action movie, but this is a joint police military operation in St. James. One by one, JDF soldiers stormed this house around 4:45 Wednesday morning, seemingly surprising the people inside. Using tactics, they entered the building. We were told the United States Marshal Service also joined in. Then, miles away in Kingston, a similar operation underway. Director of Communications at the Major Organized Crime and Anti-Corruption Agency MOCA, Major Basil Jarrett, described the raid as an anti-narcotics and law enforcement operation. Major Jarrett said they took place at 5 different locations across the 2 parishes.
It not only displays the partnership and the close collaboration that we're taking to law enforcement here, but it also demonstrates how well things can work when you share resources and assets and expertise.
He also said 4 people were taken in custody and another is being sought.
The operation this morning targeted 5 individuals. 4 of those men were found in operations across Kingston and St. James. We also took in a 5th individual who was not necessarily on our list, but he was found at one of the locations and we brought him in for questioning. All the men are suspected of being involved in transnational narcotics trafficking. We believe that the 5th individual who we picked up, who was not quite on our radar, he may have information that may help us in our investigation.
TVJ News was also informed that 2 of those persons are to be extradited to the United States. Major Jarrett told us that more details will be released about the extradition requests once the persons are formally charged. Kelisha Williams, TVJ News.
Local Government Minister Desmond McKenzie is calling for a concerted effort to fight against crime in the country. It follows the triple murder of a St. Anne Municipal Corporation worker, a murder of a St. Anne Municipal Corporation worker and her relatives on Monday morning. O'Shane Masters has more.
The gruesome discovery on Monday morning of 46-year-old Andrea Rattray, her son, 14-year-old Micah Bonito, and Miss Rattray's cousin, 50-year-old Lawrence Badal, has left the community in shock, and the St. Anne police searching for answers.
We are still at a place where we are not yet determining motive or the circumstances that led to the death of these 3 persons. We are following where the evidence leads us.
Commanding officer for the St. Anne Police, SSP Dwight Powell, says the police are awaiting the report on the forensic evidence which were gathered from the scene. He's appealing to residents who may have information on the killings to assist the police. In the meantime, local government minister Desmond McKenzie has denounced the killing of Ms. Rattray. Speaking in the House of Representatives on Tuesday, he says it's not a good time for local government following the brutal murder. It's understood that Ms. Rattray was a chef at the drop-in center in Ocho Rios.
Madam Speaker, it is unfortunate that day after day we continue to see acts of brutality that begs the question, where are we going as a nation?
It's why he's calling on elected officials to unite in the fight against crime.
What is taking place in Jamaica is of no benefit to Jamaica, Madam Speaker. No one wins, especially those who, think otherwise. But I would use the Parliament, Madam Speaker, in paying tribute to say that Jamaica needs to take stock and let us take back our country from those who seek to destroy this beautiful island of ours.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
The St. Catherine North Police Division is now in a somber mood following the loss of a colleague on Tuesday. 32-year-old Constable Jermaine Brown was killed in his car. His body was discovered slumped over his steering wheel. He served the Jamaica Constabulary Force for 9 years. Corporal Rohan James is now renewing calls for the state to be provided with the resources to sufficiently act.
There has been move afoot to provide resources, but it is insufficient. And all we are simply saying, not only remuneration that we are beseeching the government to come to the table with, but to provide the Jamaica Constabulary Force with the resources that we will have the capacity to respond to the social degradation that currently exists.
In the meantime, the police say they have no leads, but investigations are still in its early stages. They're asking for support from citizens to help bring the perpetrators to justice. And scores of people are now staging another protest over the disappearance of social media influencer Donnelly Donaldson. Donaldson went missing on July 11. Our reporter, Kirk Wright, is on location and now joins us live. Kirk?
Thank you very much, Anthony Love. Now, you're in fact correct. There are several persons outside the Constant Spring police station now staging a peaceful protest, of course, under the watchful eyes of the police here. And if you can hear in the background them chanting, "We want justice now" for Donnelly Donaldson, who has been missing for about a week now. They've also posted posters in front of the station, and there is a reward of $500,000 for anyone who can say where Donnelly Donaldson is. I spoke to a few of the demonstrators out here, and essentially they're saying that they don't think the police are doing enough to, make any progress in the case. I reminded them that the police had a press conference just this week. Still, they don't feel that the police are doing enough. They still think that the police needs to go to the apartment of one of the suspects. I did say to them, the police in their press conference say that the investigation is a high-level one and that it's very likely that they may have gone there. The residents, the family and friends out here are still not convinced and still think the police can do more. This demonstration is the second one now. I think on Saturday they staged one on Chelsea Avenue calling for the same thing, the return of Donnelly Donaldson and justice. And
Kirk, just before you go, is there any reason why the Constant Spring police station though?
They say the police, the boyfriend of the Donnelly Donaldson may be attached to this division, and so that's the reason why they're at the station. We're not sure, but they seem to have some reason why they're at this station. They're still calling for justice. If you can hear the background, they're calling for justice, and they're calling for the police to act more swiftly to bring closure to this situation. The missing woman, Donnelly Donaldson.
5 persons were arrested and an illegal gun seized in Portmore, St. Catherine in separate incidents this morning. In the first incident, a vehicle was stopped and searched. A Smith & Wesson 9mm pistol loaded with 7 9mm cartridges was seized. The driver and a 17-year-old boy were taken into custody.
Following up on that, there was a robbery in Independence City. The team responded. The occupants of that vehicle tried to elude the police. There was a hot pursuit throughout the division. We ended up intercepted that vehicle at Marine Park. Those 3 men are also in custody.
Head of the St. Catherine South Police Division, Senior Superintendent Christopher Phillips, says there has been an increase in the number of robberies in the division since the summer. He says majority of the acts are being carried out by teenagers. He also noted another trend.
We are also seeing as a trend that females are moving with gangsters, especially within the Gregory Park area. And this is an area of concern for us. Again, we're appealing to the residents within those areas to be mindful to try and save some of these youngsters from themselves.
Chairman of the St. Mary Municipal Corporation, Richard Creary, is this afternoon blasting the police for what he says is a blatant disregard for permits issued by the municipality. He says the police are providing conflicting information about the amusement permits from the municipality and the permits from the police. He says promoters are reluctant to pay because of the misinformation.
It is two separate permits. If we go and find somebody having an event that they don't have a permit from us, it is within our remit to charge them that fee and give them the permit. We can't have one government agency working against the other in that fashion.
Mr. Creary also appealed to event promoters to go through the proper channel before promoting an event.
It is cheaper for you to come in and get your permit. The Prime Minister, after coming out of COVID, said that we must charge 50% of the fee for the next 6 months, which we have been doing. If we come and we find you having that same event illegally, we are going to charge you the full fee of $3,750 plus a penalty fee of $3,750.
The Minority Caucus of the St. Ann Municipal Corporation has extended the time period for Mayor of St. Anne's Bay, Sidney Stewart, to resign. He has been given until Thursday to vacate his position. Failing to do so, Minority Leader in the corporation, Winston Brown, says a statement will be issued and a special sitting of the Municipal Corporation will be called to pass a vote of no confidence. There has been mounting pressure on Mr. Stewart to resign over lack of information on the operations of the Boxfield playing field in Ocho Rios and the stealing of electricity from the national grid and the alleged stealing of JPS light posts. And it's time now for the Business Minute.
The Business Minute, brought to you by
Business Smarter with Smart Mobile Solutions, Jamaica's one-stop shop for the best mobile technology services.
The Board of Dollar Financial Services has granted approval for the company to raise up to $1 billion in bonds. The bonds will be registered under Financial Services Commission exempt distribution guidelines. The company has not indicated when the bonds will be floated. In business overseas, the European Union has urged the countries across the bloc to cut their gas use by 15% from August to March amid fears Russia could halt supplies. It says the target is voluntary, but will become legally binding if Moscow turns off the taps this summer. The key Nord Stream 1 pipeline from Russia to Germany has been offline for maintenance for 10 days and is due to be turned back on this Thursday. But there are concerns Moscow will not follow through on its promise. That's it for the Business Minute. I'm Cody Ann Barrett.
The Business Minute, brought to you by
Business Smarter with Smart Mobile Solutions, Jamaica's one-stop shop for the best mobile technology services.
And here's a preview of what's coming up in this evening's health report.
In this evening's health report, we look at trauma.
If there is a fall that a child suffers, it is important to take the child for medical attention as soon as possible. It's best to have the child assessed early, quickly, and then be cleared for home rather than have an injury there for several days watching it. So early medical attention, should the child get into that situation, is necessary.
That's the health report in Primetime News at 7. And now for today's Healthy Living tip. Educate yourself. Learn about the common triggers and reactions that children have with trauma events. Seek support from a mental health professional. Avoid blame. Keep a routine and be patient.
And time now for a look at the top regional and international stories.
In the region, New York City Mayor Eric Adams is calling for United States federal resources to assist with arriving asylum seekers in New York City after New York experienced a sharp increase in asylum seekers from Latin America, the Caribbean, and other regions. Adams says New York City is working with the federal government to ensure the city can provide comprehensive support and resources to these individuals. He added that New York has been a city of immigrants that welcomes newcomers with open arms. This value, he says, has made the country a beacon of freedom for people around the world. On the international scene, countries in Europe were sweltering in more extreme heat on Wednesday as raging wildfires tore through the countryside, forcing thousands from their homes and blanketing parts of Italy, Greece, and France in smoke. After temperatures smashed records in the UK on Tuesday, the extreme heat is moving east across the continent, leaving a trail of destruction in many rural areas and exposing a lack of preparedness, even in some of Europe's biggest cities. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Sandy Williams.
And Liz Truss will face Rishi Sunak in the final round of the Conservative leadership after a dramatic final day of voting by MPs, which saw Penny Mordaunt knocked out of the race. The fifth and last vote by MPs saw Sunak, a former chancellor, top the polls easily on 137 votes. Truss, the foreign secretary, who had trailed Mordaunt throughout the previous rounds, took 113 votes, just ahead of Mordaunt's 105. Sunak and Truss will go to the next stage of the contest, a vote by Tory party members, with the winning succeeding Boris Johnson as Prime Minister in early September. And that's the Midday News. I'm Anthony Lugg. Join us at 7 for Primetime News. On behalf of the news, sports, and production teams, good afternoon.